Another thing that we need to recognize are strings and arrays. They're very similar. As a matter of fact, strings are an array of characters. I don't know if you noticed, but every time we access information from a string, basically we are accessing the char at, the character at position. So this is another way you can declare a string by creating a char square bracket string equals, and then you just provide character by character the elements. A little bit complicated and long and a little bit lengthy. So that's why we recommend to use just the object of strings. But in reality, what the string is doing is declaring an array of characters. Remember, the strings use methods. In arrays, we use immutable operations, means that you cannot change those operations. Operations like dot length, that's a method that you can have in a string, but we can use this immutable operation called length without the parentheses in an array. We also can use the method of .char at position I in a string versus what we can use in an array and then square bracket I to access that information. Again, loops can help to access this information. Something that you need to be aware is to watch your bounds, which means that an array in Java provides values from 0 all the way to a.length minus 1 inclusively. Remember that everything that you can access falls in that interval, in that range. So if you try to attempt to access data that is probably negative or greater than that current array's capacity, it will result in having an array index out of bounds exception. An array index out of bounds is when you're trying to access values that are not in that interval, in that range from 0 to 4 in this particular example that we've been working with. For example, suppose that we want to access negative values in the array. So this will give you something called java.lang array index out of bounds, index minus 1 or other negative value is out of the bounds from the length of 5. This is to specify that there's only indices from 0 to 4 to access the value from this array. In similar fashion, when you're trying to access values that are positive, to are beyond the 4, notice that 5 is there, and that's a common mistake because you know you have 5 values. You're trying to access index 5, and that will give you index out of bounds. This is when we're trying to access the array index 5. Let's write a couple examples to demonstrate this previous topic. Let's compare strings and arrays just to make sure you understand the difference. We can create character array A that will contain the values of a character array, which is also known as a string. We're creating here an array of type characters. Let us try to print the value of A. I know we have a hexadecimal address location explanation for that particular item, but I want you to pay attention on the following cool trick. Java C, there, hello. Why are we getting hello? In the other example, we got that funky variable called hexadecimal address location. Remember that strings are an array of characters. So Java recognizes this array of characters as a string. As a matter of fact, we create a string, for example, s, and we put the value of hello, Java will recognize it like that. So this is the array, and we're going to print the value of s after that. And you cannot see the difference. If you can see here, after we compile it and we run it, both are hellos. Java recognizes that as part of an array. Now, let's try to process those values step by step. We can use the for loop that we have already in mind, and we can do the system of println array at position I, so you can see what is printing. This is the printing the characters of the array. We can do something similar with the characters of the string. So we're gonna put here s.length. Make sure you put parentheses to make sure you're dealing with the method, and do s.char at position I. So I want you to contrast that one is the actual array, the other one is the actual string. Let's compile and run this program, and let's see what happens. No difference. Can we check if both are equals? Can we do system of println? Can we consider are they equal? And we can use s.equals, and then we can put here the array. Let's see what happens. false. This is where the interesting thing comes. One of them, remember that the dot equals is a method that we obtain from the object. So we used to compare strings this way, dot equals or dot equals ignore case. Maybe that compared to. But here, Java is providing us false. Why is this false? Well, one of them is a string and the other one is a char. So they're not the same. Java uses internally in the object string to transform your array of characters. So you can read something similar to what you can read with the string, but they're two different things. As a matter of fact, they're two different locations. How can we know? We can print them the hash code. Let's compile and run this program and compare what's happening in memory. I want you to pay attention on the string hash code 99162322. That is the memory location where the string is being stored. The array hash code is a different one, 6688494042. They're different locations, but they're also different in equals values in content. Location-wise and content-wise, they're not the same. Although they read the same at the very beginning when we were printing the hello and character by character hello, there is a difference in location and content. So be careful with that every time you deal with strings and array of characters. This example, we're going to use the same value that we were using at the very beginning of the examples. We're going to create an array with 5 values. And let me demonstrate how this can be tragically gives you an array index out of bounds by using the regular for loop. This is a typical error that we got. Some people might put here 5 as instead of a.len, we can put here 5. And we try to say the system of parent line array at position I in order to basically print those values. Some of you would like to store the value 5 there, which means that you want to include the value 5. Be careful, because when we're trying to do this, let me just compile the program and run it to see this exception. You can see the very first 5 values printed there, but the very last iteration, because of the I less than or equals to 5, that will be true even the 5 is not less than or equal to 5. We're going to be inside of the body of the loop and try to print array at position 5. That is why we result in array index out of bounds. Index 5 is out of the bounds of the line 5. It even tells you which line of the code here, line number 10, is the one that generates this problem. Be careful with exemption that you might get when you don't respect the boundaries of the entire array. That is why it's always important to always have not only here a.len in case something changes, but also to not go into that specific index. Let's clear off our screen, compile and run, and you will see how this got fixed, exactly as our previous example.